So this week I have my guest is Rebecca Seman. I always like to say how I know my guests, and this is another one of those kind of unusual or rare occasions. Usually I know my guests or I have known them for a while. Rebecca, I actually just met last week. And as I've mentioned, I love the fact that, get involved in different things in the community. You never know who you're going to meet. Everyone's got an interesting story. I think it's great. So I was, thanks to my marketing work, my marketing client, I'm working with King's College on a project called About Face, and we're trying to reduce or remove the stigma around opioid use disorder. And there's some wonderful work being done at King's College through the Chauvel Center. Bill Bolin, Kelly Gibbons, they had a wonderful exhibit going on in the gallery at the Whitman Gallery, and part of it we talked about substance use disorder. We talked about homelessness. We also talked about food insecurity. So when people do not have enough food for themselves, their family, and that was part of the display. Some of the engineering students had actually done a really cool display with the canned goods that were going to be donated to a food pantry with New Roots Recovery Center, which helps people in recovery. And they also have a food pantry. So wonderful community collaborations going on. And I met Rebecca there. And I want Rebecca to, I won't say what she does because I want her to explain it. I know that I won't get it right, but I've met Rebecca there and I just thought, you know what, I really would love for Rebecca to share her story. So welcome and thank you so much for joining me, Rebecca.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
So tell us a little bit. I know, so you do service where you help people. You also have a little, like, people are used to seeing the little libraries throughout communities. You have a little food pantry. So I don't know where you want to get started. How did you get involved in doing service, especially around food insecurity?
So I think it actually started when I was a kid, and this
Okay.
is a really story close to my heart because it has to do with my mom, who was she was a mom. She cooked food, she gardened, she provided, and I think it was when it started then. Um, I used to take food from the house to my friends in the neighborhood and give it to everybody. And my mom said, one day you're going to feed people. And, I never thought anything about it. I'm like, of course I'm going to feed people. That's what people do. And I never knew it would go to this extreme. So
So you, even back then you liked the idea. What it wasn't about it, you think, as a kid? You wanted people to have enough, or you wanted to share kind of that bonding of that love through food, because food is so means so much, connects us. It's not just about feeding us, but as sustenance, but like there's a connection with food too.
yeah, I think it was just I wanted to make sure that everybody around me had stuff because we had a candy store up the street. So that was like the biggest deal around here was like if there were kids that didn't have candy, it was like, why don't they have candy? So that was the thing. Like I was sharing my candy with people. So
Well, that was nice. That was good that you learned early on to be benevolent, to be kind. So now here you are. Tell us the work that you do now. I know that you do a couple things. So we'll start with your service. It's through. Is it AmeriCorps that you do some work? It's service work. If you want to tell us a little bit about what it is that you do and what that whole, like, is it a program or what exactly is that?
yeah, so I don't know if you've ever heard of the Peace Corps, but AmeriCorps is like the main branch, and there's different arms of it. So the Peace Corps would be one of them. The branch that I'm in is the community community health workers, and it's a new program that just kind of got started in Luzerne County. They had one last year, but this is the second year of it. And what they do is they kind of prepare you for a job in community health work. So it's helping people find resources, any kinds of resources in the county. So if they need housing, if they need mental health, if they need food, if they're, utilities, whatever it may be, health, go to a doctor or whatever it could be that they need. Community health workers do that kind of work for them. and guide them along the way, kind of give them support in what they do. And it's almost like, I guess, a caseworker, but this way it's really focusing on doing what you need for the person and kind of letting them guide the way, I guess.
Okay.
So yeah. So our branch in the county is called AHAC, and they're the ones that kind of do the community health worker training. And then we do our service through AmeriCorps, and we each have a site that we work through, and mine's the food dignity movement.
Okay. And what do you do? Obviously food dignity. So you're helping people get enough food, but what does it involve? Are you like actually delivering food to people? What exactly do you do when you're part of it?
So the main thing that I started off as, and I actually started as a volunteer, I had found Clancy Harrison on Facebook. They were doing, and this was during COVID, they were doing a drive-through food giveaway over in Kingston at a church. And, things in the beginning of COVID were really scary. So my thought was, well, I need to have enough food for my children and myself. So, go and get something, and I don't drive. So my dad took me. And when we got there wasn't actually any food left. I believe they had served over 2,000 people that day. So it
Wow.
was, it was a little disappointing, but what can you do, So I had kind of followed her a little bit on Facebook for a while to see if they had more, but I didn't get an opportunity to go. And then one day I was just kind of researching the term food insecurity because I had never heard that before. And I had found that listening to someone on YouTube, and I had come across her TED Talk. And that was the day my life changed. She had moved me, something inside of me had stirred up, and this passion had just come out. And I reached out to her. I was so moved by what she was doing. I reached out to her and I said, hey, like, I'm involved with these different places. Like, how can I help you? Like, I really want to do something to help. And she said, hey, let's talk. And we did. And she said, come up to the food bank that we run and come check it out. You could get food if you need it. You can help people, whatever you want to do. So I went, and I just kept going back. I couldn't stop. So everybody there, they were just, it was an atmosphere I've never experienced before. Everyone was very loving and welcoming. And yeah, I couldn't stop. So I ended up getting this service through them, and I really appreciate it. So
And for people, and I used the term before, but I'll admit I may have not have defined it properly because it is somewhat of a new term. What do we mean when we say food insecurity?
So food insecurity has many faces. Anyone could be food insecure. It could be your parents, it could be your neighbor, it could be the mailman, it could be a teacher, it could be a doctor, it could be anybody in your community. And you may not know that they're food insecure because there's many things that people don't talk about, that they don't get enough food, that they don't have access to the food that they'd like to eat. It's just tough for everybody. And people don't usually want to share those things, so we just have to keep in mind, like, it could be anybody.
Mm. And that kind of like, we're talking about with our, the project I'm doing with Kings about opioid use, it's not one of those things where you're like, oh, that only happens to so many, or certain people only get involved with drugs or whatever. It's like anybody could be affected by that. And the same we're saying for food insecurity, anyone could be affected by that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you got involved and you were really inspired by I'm sorry, was it Clancy was I'm sorry, what was her name?
Yeah, Clancy Harrison.
Clancy Harrison. So she really inspired you and got you involved. So what do you doing like on a regular basis then with this? Are you going out into the community to help with or helping to make sure the food banks are stocked, or what exactly is the work that you get to do?
So the main thing that I started off doing was I would go to their food bank, which at the time was kind of it was for Geisinger patients that have diabetes, and they go to the doctor, and if they would, they'd ask them some questions, and if they felt like they were food insecure, in need, they would do a referral. And so the referral would come from Geisinger to us. And then we get our food from CEO, Commission on Economic Opportunity. And then we pack it up, and then they come, and we kind of we have some guidelines to follow with them, to keep their health good and everything. But yeah, they would come and just pick up their food, and we load them up, and a lot of produce. We get a lot of stuff from Fuller's Overlook Farm, which is beautiful produce. They have amazing stuff, and so healthy and nutritious. So we provide that for them. And then we also do every third Friday of the month in Kingston, Pack Pediatrics actually has a food giveaway. So people can walk up or drive up, but we get all our food again from CEO, they'll deliver it, and then we pack everything up. And we've actually been working with a lot of volunteers from Kings. They've come down, from Wilkes have come, and then some of our food dignity movement people have also joined us too. So it's a nice little compacted community we got going, helping each other out. But yeah, and people line up, and we just serve them food, also put the food in their trunks. Another thing that I'm doing is, today was my first day actually. I started at New Roots Recovery in Wilkes-Barre.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, yeah, and so I get to help guide them into nutrition education, and then we cook food, and we got more produce from Fuller's, and we made some food today. And it was actually, we packed meals yesterday at King's for New Roots, and today they got their food, and it was heartwarming to see, because like most of these people live out on the street, like they don't have a place to live, and they came in and got a hot meal, and warmed it up and ate and sat and had fellowship together, and just had a warm place to be. And it was really amazing to see that there's places like that here.
Yeah. And people may not know this, but I mean, they are out there. And I would say, how important would you say, and you mentioned before we hit the record button, Peace Grains, they make bread and they've donated too. How important is it for places like that who contribute? I mean, that's what really helps the community kind of stay together, all that collaboration, and that kindness and generosity helps make this possible in many cases, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have a huge collaboration going in the community. Like I said, King's College and Hillside Farms. One of my first things of service this summer was I got to go to the Hillside Farms grief camp for the children. And we had produce, and we set it up, just like in a grocery store. And we had bread donated from Peace Grain, which is a local business. She makes amazing sourdough bread, homemade, that she sells to her friends. And then what she gets back from that, she makes more bread, and then she gives free to the community out in Dallas. And she's actually provided bread yesterday for the people in New Roots for their dinner. And she's actually provided me with bread for my Little Free Pantry, which we'll talk about. But yeah, we just the kids came and they got bags and they filled it with whatever produce they wanted. And, so it's different things like that, and new routes. Um, you know, you need each other. It doesn't, it's not one person's going to come and save everyone. We have to work together. That's the only way we're ever going to, get through all of the issues that we have. And we could look at the bigger picture and be like, yeah, maybe we could stop food insecurity. Maybe we could stop addiction. Maybe we could stop homelessness. But when it comes down to it, even if you do one small thing to help someone out, you're taking that step towards it. And if we have a lot of people together doing the same thing, that's a huge step. So having all of these partners for food dignity is just, it's been amazing to see everyone get together and do this, put that hard work and effort and their passions into it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And that's, I should say, where I met you last week at King's. I mean, talk about collaboration. It's just such a beautiful thing to see everyone working together. I mean, there was an exhibit, a beautiful, sad, but really touching, beautiful photos done by a local photographer, Amy, pictures. She had gotten to know some people who are homeless, just to make people aware. And then we had the canned goods that the students had put together to look like a tree with the actual roots. The students who worked on some messaging about opioid use disorder, education, awareness, and then Beth from Interdependence Hexagon Project, getting people to express themselves through art in hexagons that were all connected on the wall there. And it is so true that we are all connected, and some people might look and go, oh, that's not my problem, or that won't be me, or I don't know anybody in that situation. But we really do have to take a step back and go, it could be any one of us. And besides, even if it wasn't us, don't we want to help the people who are impacted? And don't we want to solve these problems or work to overcome them together? And it is beautiful to hear that so many organizations are coming together and people to help. I mean, every little bit counts. And if we keep making those steps forward, that's a wonderful thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's talk about, you have now again, I mentioned it, I referenced it earlier, but most of us probably know the little free libraries because they're kind of popping up everywhere. I know I live in Scranton. We've got one at Naog Park. We've got them pretty much. There are several, and there are also in the Wilkes-Barre, Luzerne County area for just books, take a book or leave a book. But this is something different that you created, and I'm sure there must be some in other locations. It's that same idea, but it's for food. So it's a Little Free Pantry. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So I had seen the Little Free Libraries years ago, and I thought that was an awesome concept. The fact that you could just, walk into your local park or, outside someone's house and just pick up a book and have somewhere to drop books off. So I always wanted to do that. And when I had moved to a different place right before COVID, and I was like, oh, it would be really cool to, in the spring to finally get that together. And COVID happened, and then, it was winter, and I was like, well, what is going on right now that somebody, that everybody needs? And I was like, well, food. I saw these Little Free Pantries starting to pop up everywhere. And I was like, well, I could do this. Like, I just have to, figure out how I'm going to build it and get it set up and go from there.
So now I saw you sent me a picture, and I assume that's yours, although I shouldn't assume. So you have it, did you create your own, like you built it and it's in your neighborhood?
Yes. So my brother actually built it for me, because I have some skill with building stuff, but something like that, I'm just not able to do, didn't have the tools and stuff like that. So my brother actually built it for me. But my kids and I had painted it and put it in the ground, and put some flowers around it and all. So yeah.
It looks very cheerful, very welcoming. So now, do you get donations from the community to put in that? And then people can kind of drop off donations?
Yeah, so the concept of a Little Free Pantry is to give what you take what you can, or take what you need and give what you can. So sometimes they call them blessings box. It depends on the person, I guess, but to me, it's both. It's a pantry, but it's also a blessing to have. So yeah, it's just people come and put stuff in. People come and take stuff. People do both. People will buy stuff off our Amazon wish list, and it'll be sent to me, and then I'll, post it that we got it, and then put it in there for whoever. We get stuff just all over the place. Like, people are just continuously like, how can I help? What do you need? Dropping food off on my front porch. Like, I'll come home and there'll be food on my front porch, and I'll be like, okay, got to get it in the pantry today.
That's great that you have that that people are generous and that they can be right now, especially with the way things are right now. Things are a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say? I mean, it's encouraging to hear so many people are helping out, and doing this. What are you going forward? Do you see, what's your hope, I guess I would say, or what would you want people to know about food insecurity and what you're doing and how they can get engaged?
So I think the first thing to do is to make yourself aware of what food insecurity is. Like I said, in the beginning, I never heard of that term before. So it was new to me. So, listening to podcasts and TED Talks, just to educate myself, to know, what it was about, who it affects, how people deal with it, and how people are making changes in it. And that's really important. In a way, I've kind of been food insecure for a long time. I'm single mother of 3 kids. I have 2 kids with disabilities. They're both teenagers, and they're doing great now. So, and then a younger child. And we've been homeless before. We've faced trauma. We've faced illness. We've had family members that have, died from different things. And, I never really thought how much of an impact the food that I was eating or not eating would have on me. But it really did make a difference when it comes down to your health, your mental health, how you live, how you react to things, how you take care of yourself. It's huge. So definitely educating yourself on what food insecurity is and how it affects other people and how it could affect you is a great place to start. Also, getting to know what there is in your community. I don't think people that, are just in a place of helping people, like a job of helping people, say in a nonprofit, should know about the resources in the community. I think everybody should have an idea of what there is out there, so that, if, you were ever to become homeless, or, needed help with, your mental health or your bills, like, you knew where to go. Or if you had family or friends that, had issues with that, they would know where to go. That's another huge thing is, when we get in situations, then we look into, like, what can help us, who can help us. But knowing that there are these different things out there, and getting involved in them is a big start too.
Yeah. Oh, those are 2 really good ways to get started. Like you said, educating yourself, that's the first thing, understanding it, and then seeing what's out there and seeing what you can do to help, or if someone needs the help, knowing where to go for it. Because sometimes people don't even realize that there is help available, and that's important for them to know too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you said, you've been homeless, you've been in this situation, so you certainly can understand, I would say better than those of us who haven't been in that position. You can really understand the need. And I would thank you, the compassion that you have, like, you get what it's like. And so you really understand what that's like. this is airing, this podcast is airing on Thanksgiving. Is there anything, and I mean, you could say as much or as little as you'd like to, with this season of gratitude, and obviously we should always be grateful throughout the whole year. Is there anything in particular that you would like to share that you right now are feeling gratitude for?
I'm grateful to have a place to live, to have a steady place to live. That was a hard thing for me and my children for a long time, was to stay in one place. I wasn't happy. Like, I dealt with a lot of mental health issues, and I got myself into situations that, I could have made better choices, but unfortunately I didn't. And I had to deal with the consequences. And so I was stuck for a long time. And I felt like, not, it's never going to get better. It's never going to change. Um, so, all of that has taught me to really appreciate what I have, who I have around me. And the biggest thing is to rely on community. Like, we can't, no matter how much we try, we can't do it ourselves. Like, we need other people. And we have a mentality these days that's like, oh, if someone's toxic in your life, you need to throw them out the back door. Like, that's not how it works. We need to be there for each other. We need to understand what each other is going through, and, try to help as best we can, like, not let other people's problems take over your life, but really just, do what you can, where you can, with what you have. That's the important thing. Start there. We can't change the whole world. It's just not possible. But if we take the steps to change ourselves and do the things that we enjoy, that we're passionate about, we can really change the community around us. So.
Yeah. And that's great advice. And it sounds that you're in a good place right now, for yourself and your family. And I can only imagine, I would think that doing what you're doing must make you feel good too. Not just that you have this place and that you feel safe, but that you're helping other people. That has to be rewarding, right? To know that you are helping other people.
Oh, absolutely. Today, like, when I went to New Roots and I was cooking food, and, there were people that came in to help. Um, what would they have done if I wasn't there? Like, we were talking about the different produce that we had, and like the different food, and how to cook it and eat it. And, even if they didn't take all of that knowledge in, like, they had someone to talk to, and I was there with people that I was lending my ear. They were just venting because, like, they were on the streets. Like, they knew they had to get as much food as they could, to be able to survive the night. And, to be there, to have people to talk to. Like, I feel like, how could things have been if I wasn't? And that's how I go into every situation, is knowing what I know that I can do, what I'm capable of. Like, if I wasn't there, how would things be? And I know that I can bring, so much to the table. So I try to do that in every situation I go into.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to look at it. What for yourself, is there anything that you're looking forward to in the year ahead, or something that in particular that you want to do next? Like, if there's something, that a goal that you have that you're thinking, okay, now that I've got this, next thing I want is this. Is there anything that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, so I'm like so into gardening. That's like a huge passion of mine. So that was one of the things that we did this spring, was we put a garden bed around our Little Free Pantry, and we grew cucumbers and lettuce and tomatoes and different herbs and flowers. And it was small, but it was amazing. Like, people could see the sunflowers coming down the street, and there's just like, whoa, that is so cool, And I felt like it was also a place where you could literally see where your food comes from. Like, here's a place where you can come and get food, but you could, like, it's coming out of the ground, like, you could pick it. So because of that, I've had a lot of huge feedback from the people in my community. And we're actually, I was like, one of my goals was to have a community garden. And I reached out to my supervisor and I said, well, hey, is this something that Food Dignity would like to be a part of? And she's like, yeah, sure. This is a great idea. So the plan is for in the spring to kind of start off small, with a little bit of space, but to grow some stuff and see how the people in the community, if they get involved, if they want to, help out and grow their own things, if they want stuff to be grown for them. If what skills do they have? Do they want to lend a hand anyway? So we're gonna see how that goes. But that was like a huge goal of mine, and now it's happening. So I'm looking forward really to the spring to come so we could grow stuff.
Well, that's great. And that's awesome. Like hand in hand, like you're saying, like they get to see it literally coming out of the ground. Like talk about knowing and trusting where your food comes from. That's fantastic. That's really wonderful. Um, is there anything else in closing as we wrap up? Those were the things that were on my top of mind that I wanted to talk to you about. Anything else that you would like people to know or understand better?
Um, I think the most important thing to me is, and this comes from a favorite YouTuber of mine. She's a homesteader, because that's another thing I'm passionate about is, besides gardening, is raising animals. I actually have had chickens and ducks before and turkeys in my yard. And like, I love animals. So it was really cool to experience that. But what she says is turn your waiting room into your classroom. So my dream for a long time was, okay, I want to have a farm. I want to grow stuff. I want to be able to help people in the community. And I was like, but what can I do in the meantime? Like, I can't afford that. At that time, I didn't have the income to be able to do anything extra. So it's like, what can I do? And so like I started to learn how to can and to freeze, how to cook over a fire, how to become self-sufficient. And this was all during COVID. So, all that time that we had by ourselves away from people, I tried to learn as much as I could. And it's actually come in handy for my service. A lot of these things that I learned now I can use in the community. So I would say anybody out there, like if you have a dream and you want to do something big, start where you're at. Reach out to the people that talk about it, that teach it. If you have favorite YouTubers, people on Facebook, anybody that you look up to that does things, reach out to them, get yourself involved in that community and just go for it, you know, learn.
That's great advice. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And like you're saying, there's so many resources out there. YouTube is free, right? We can all access it. Look at those videos, learn about the people, reach out to them like you did. You reached out to Clancy, right? Or the TED Talk. And
Yeah,
I mean, look what that did too. So people, people will share, what they're talking about and help you to learn. That's great advice. Yeah, definitely. I'm ashamed to say that I wouldn't do too well. I need to work on my survival skills. I'm really not good with that
God.
stuff. I need to watch more YouTube and learn more things. I probably during the pandemic did not use my time as wisely as a lot of people because I know a lot of people learn like different skills that they wanted to, which was great. I mean, we were all at home, so we might, we could have used that time to learn something new. So I admire what you've done. I think that's fantastic.
Thank you.
That's great. And that's great advice for other people. And I always say too, I mean, I'm someone who's born and raised in Scranton, and I've always been a fan of the area and what we have here. And when people are complaining, I used to say, if you don't like it, leave, or whatever's missing, create it. So it's along those lines. If something here in Northeast PA you find is lacking, you've read about something that's somewhere else, you don't have to necessarily leave, but bring it here, help make it happen here, and talk to people who have like minds and see if they'll help. And as we referenced earlier, it's not just one person, it takes the community collaboration. So reach out to people and make things happen here that you want to see, and they could end up not just something you enjoy but helping other people as well.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
So thank you so much, Rebecca. Anything else in closing as far as I can definitely share some links when I post this. Anything like websites or anything that you recommend for people to either get involved, to donate, or who might need help?
So yeah, I would definitely start with links. I would say definitely check out the food dignity movement, because it's not just here in Luzerne County. Like Clancy Harrison, like she goes everywhere. Like she's constantly all over the place talking to people. Like she was even involved in the talks on nutrition for the White House.
Wow.
Like she's really out there, trying to change, how everything works around food insecurity, and to bring dignity to people that need it. Because that's another thing, is like when you're going through this situation, it's hard to find dignity. Like it's really hard to dig down and find that. And a lot of people don't give you that dignity when you're in those situations. And they might be facing the same thing. So, like even if you are in this place, try to understand the people around you, because that's, they might be going through the same exact thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, food dignity is a great place to start. Um, you know, if there's anything else, like let me know. I'll share whatever I have.
Sure. Okay, a food dignity, and I'll share a link to New Roots as well for those folks out there. New Roots Recovery Center does a lot of great work with people who need help, who've had substance use disorder. If you need help with recovery, they do help people every step of the way. So that's a great place to look into as well. So yeah, so I will put those links when I share the podcast, and if anyone does have questions, I'll be happy to pass those along to Rebecca if you want to know anything that we've talked about here today. So I want to thank you so much for your time, Rebecca, and I want to thank you for just sharing your story and what you're doing and making us aware of something that we can learn more about. So thank you so much. And so I want to say thank you, as I always do, to my listeners. And I hope you have had a happy Thanksgiving. And if you haven't celebrated yet, have a good one when you do. And I look forward to offering you more fabulous guests. I'm so proud to bring you, because I think they're wonderful. They're doing great things. And I hope you've enjoyed, you've learned, and maybe gained some insight for your own life. So as I always say, thank you. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.